The lapel, you can maybe have 2 layers, a little bit more interfacing, and hemline. Now, we haven't added the hem allowances yet. I could just add that as well. Hem allowance. It's gonna be a little bit different than, yeah, this is kind of funny. Our facing is 3 inches. So 3 inches, this part is the facing. And then we need to add inch and half hem allowance. Inch and half hem allowance. So this is the hem allowance here. Plus ½ inch on the area that is covered by facing. So here it's ½ inch and here inch and half. And this is the 3-inch point where the facing ends. And beyond that, you have to add ½ inch. So this is kind of, you will see what happens if you don't do this. You get into trouble later on. So you can interface the hem allowance and ½ inch for adding this one to ½ inch here on the facing. How to interface the facing? If you already have this one, this part, the center panel interface, and the lapel, you may not need to add interfacing to the facing at all. Or you can add very light interfacing, and a little bit heavier maybe here on the lapel. Again, we don't always, it depends what you, or you can have no interfacing on the, yeah, this is kind of hard to explain, but you may have part of the center panel and part of the facing interface. So what side is gonna be visible on it's this part. The lapel is gonna be visible when you fold the lapel. So you kind of have to imagine what happens. You don't want to create very hard pieces, very too heavily interfaced. But you have to kind of add enough stability. Every situation is different. So you can interface the facing, that could be possible. Then consider what parts would you interface, maybe here on the lapel. I don't know what would be the best. Definitely the hem allowance here. So let's start a list here. So front edge, interfacing. Number 1, something on the front edge. Front edge, very important. This area is very important for stability. You don't want it to be out of shape. And these are not always, here's a straight crane line. It's a straight crane line here, but not necessary here, not here. It's odd crane, and those are areas that might cause stretching and getting somehow out of shape. So somewhere front edge. Also, you are going to have buttonholes in here. So there are gonna be buttonholes. Whatever amount, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. buttonholes. So there is the facing, lapel, and buttonholes that absolutely require stability. Something needs to be added there, interfacing. How exactly? Again, it depends. That is something you learn as you make a few of those jackets. I cannot tell you one method works for all. You can look at also the book, what they suggest. Then number 2, collar. How do we interface the collar? Again, we have top collar and under collar here. I would suggest that under collar stand is very heavily interfaced. You can add more than 1 layer and maybe a little lighter here on the rest of the collar. Or you could have very light interfacing on top collar and a little bit more on under collar. But really this stand is very important. So choice, under collar, my opinion is important to be interfaced. Top collar, maybe very lightly, and very heavily the stand. Heavy interfacing in the stand area. So again, you need to kind of have an understanding. My opinion is that under collar is the main part that needs to be interfaced, and stand even double interfacing, stronger interfacing. And top collar kind of maybe lightly, maybe not at all. Again, it depends of the material that you are using, the type of fabric, the type of thinking you have. The designers have different thinking in how heavy, how strongly we interface things. For example, Giorgio Armani, when he started, he started as a menswear designer, and then he branched to women's tailored suits in 80s something, and they were very revolutionary. They were different. They were soft and pliable and a little playful. There were folds and pleats and kind of interesting, but they were very lightly interfaced. They were almost like blouses, but they were suit jackets. Then Yves Saint Laurent, his designs were kind of very structured, very simple, structured, plain, nothing frilly there, but they were very heavily interfaced. So they were heavy, something like this, like men's traditional tailoring. That was his thinking, and they lasted forever. I mean, they never lost the shape. So think about what would be the right way of interfacing. Number 3, always hemlines. All hemlines need to be interfaced. So So if we add hem allowance to the self, this one was kind of special here. First ½ inch and then 1.5 inches. And 1.5 inches usually works well with the system that I have with the lining. So add 1.5 inches for hem allowance, pretty much all pieces. And we look at in a minute. And hemlines always need to be interfaced. Otherwise, there would be, the hems may start curling up or they stretch. Not a good idea any means. So 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. This one, yes, 1.5. Then add ½ inch, and here is ½ inch. So all of these hemlines need interfacing. So add strips of interfacing to all hem allowances. These red dots mean it's interfaced. Okay? So hem, when you have a hem allowance, if this is the, I just draw it in actual size. Inch and half here. So interface, hem allowance, and maybe something like 1/4 inch beyond the fold. So if this one is the fold, interface also a little bit over it. So shift it so that the actual turning, the round hemline here is fully interfaced up to 1/4 inch beyond. Hemlines, sleeve already we have added the hem allowance to the sleeve pattern here, so we don't have to add any more hem allowance, but seam allowance is ½ inch and ½ inch here, but nothing on top of the vent parts, and then here ½ inch. This is for the top sleeve, ½ inch, ½ inch for the top sleeve. Nothing here because we already have this. This is hem allowance that you interface. So here is the interfacing as well. And then add also here on the, no, we actually don't need anything there, but on undersleeve, same thing. And add 1/4 inch hem allowance over the vent, but nothing beyond or below, and otherwise ½ inch. Otherwise ½ inch. So here is ¼ inch, here is ½ inch, and this other seam line has ½ inch seam allowance as well. But nothing here on the vent area. This is nothing added, this is nothing added, nothing added. And ½ inch, of course, here on cap, ½ inch, and always cut the tips of the of those corner points. Otherwise, it really takes too much fabric. So cut the corners here, like ½ inch beyond where the tip of the pattern ends. So everywhere else ½ inch, ¼ inch here on the under sleeve area. So hemlines need to be interfaced, and of course also sleeve hem and vent area. Just don't make it too hard. Okay? Pocket. Whenever we have pockets, haven't decided yet where the pocket is actually placed here on the style. Usually it starts like a little bit below waistline, maybe a couple of inches, and about ½ inch of the princess line, and then continues on the princess line some amount, sometimes even past the side panel. So sometimes it reaches the side panel. But the area needs to be really heavily interfaced. So very strong interfacing when you have the pocket area. So not just a little strip there, but really quite extensive area to be interfaced. So pocket, opening, widely interfaced, so something like that. Really wide interfacing around what you consider the pocket opening. Shoulder. Shoulder area. This is especially men's tailored suit jackets. This may be a really important thing. Sometimes you can have shoulder tapes, but interfacing this area is somewhat important. Also in the back. So how much it is and what kind of interfacing it is, that's kind of, but some stability. I like to have seam tapes here on the armholes, seam taping, and when I sew the sleeve in, I have a twill tape around it, because you don't want that armhole to stretch out of shape. So this is something you kind of have to plan ahead in order to know what to do with the what to do with your situation. Shoulder area, front, back, kind of some back area also. It does help. It does add stability. And number 6 would be the facing. How do you interface the facing? Again, optional front, entire front. It could be the entire front. This part here, some interfacing, sometimes underneath the underarm area and this area here on the back as well. So those are things. And then question is, how do you interface the entire facing? What would be the interfacing type? How? Kind of hard to say for sure. So lapel, yes, definitely. Maybe not necessarily this lapel that's turned to right side, or both could have a light interfacing. So interfacing is, in my opinion, really somewhat problematic, and every situation is different. Can't really have two exactly the same because the styles are changing. This one I showed sewing of the two-piece sleeve. So this one was the thing. And here I have added interfacing. This is how it looks, two-piece sleeve. This is how the undersleeve looks like. And this one is so it kind of looks a little bare, but it does work. And this is the top sleeve. Both have interfacings. You can see what parts are interfaced. Sometimes the cap has interfacing. Again, that's one possibility, of course, adding to the cap and to the underarm point. More you add interfacing areas, more stability you get. But then it may get a little heavy too. And then this is my undercollar. I have added a tape. I've added the tape to the roll line. So this is how it shapes nicely, undercollar. Look how it's shaped. And then this stand part could be really strongly interfaced. And I have also added light interfacing on the top collar. So here it is with the tape. See now, it stays that way. It will not stretch out of shape. So undercollar, you kind of press it into a nice round shape, and then the top collar kind of comes to match, goes around it, and they all come together. So this is something I can demo today at one point as well. And here is the actual jacket piece. This fabric is somewhat stretchy, which I don't like. And I have interfaced fairly lightly the facings, not the heavy interfacing, but because it is a stretchy fabric, I prepare a little extra interfacing. And then this upper part, see, I have taped underneath here. This won't stretch, good. And then I have added upper part interfacing here, kind of light interfacing, but then a little heavier interfacing or sturdier here on the lapel. And here is the pocket that I'm going to demo. hemline interfaced, and around the pocket where it's cut off or cut slash bound pocket, this needs to be very well interfaced. So this one is already done. Yeah, here is the here it is. So when you start making, we can write down also a good order, maybe Thursday order, where you start, step by step, good order how you get the jacket done without ending in situations that now you can't go back and add something that you forgot or ignored when it was the time